We are tracking a significant and potentially dangerous weather pattern today as we have very high severe weather concerns over the deep south. This is the highest severe weather threat that we've had in months since the last severe weather season, with a 4 out of 5 of moderate risk from the Storm Prediction Center, so we really want to take this seriously. In addition, we're also tracking some warm temperatures, but a pattern change which will come to next week and bring winter back into the forecast. And finally, in the Pacific Northwest, we're tracking a parade of storm systems that will be easing off after this weekend. I'm Isaiah. Today is Saturday, December 28th, and let's dive in, especially with that severe weather that we're forecasting later today. Alright, so this is live Isaiah here. We're recording the severe weather part of the video the morning of because there's a lot of action, there's a lot of last minute updates that we want you to be aware of. So I'm recording this around 8 to 9 o'clock and we already have a lot of action going. So here's a look at our current radar, and notice that from Louisiana into Mississippi and Arkansas, we already have these scattered showers and storms forming. This is out ahead of the main event, and notice that we even have had a few tornado warnings already, a few severe thunderstorm warnings. We have a lot of tornado watches out for this large area here. So this is kind of a precursor to the more significant severe weather coming in later today. Panning the camera back out to the west, this here what's forming over Texas. This is going to become the main event later today. We have a line of showers and storms forming over central Texas up toward Dallas. As this moves eastward with a cold front, it will congeal into a solid line, and this will be the main threat for damaging winds and tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center, we have a moderate risk, a 4 out of 5 risk of severe weather today. This is especially focused for parts of central Louisiana to Mississippi, so this is pretty serious. The Storm Prediction Center only puts out 4 out of 5 moderate risks on a handful of days, and they're telling you want to pay attention here because this severe weather could be very impactful. The tornado risk is especially high. This red area means there's a 15% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of any point in that red area, and that's pretty high on any given day. The dashed lines here mean that significant long track tornadoes are possible, so EF2 plus tornadoes, maybe EF3 tornadoes are possible in this area, and we are concerned with more long track and more dangerous tornado trails that could potentially impact a lot of people. The wind threat is also very high. Anyone in this red area needs to watch out, and especially in this dashed area. This is where 75 mile per hour plus winds are possible, and this in and of itself is enough to be a very big threat. 75 mile per hour winds, even without a tornado, can topple trees, cause power outages, and bring a lot of disruptions. The hail threat is also there, but much lower, but it's still something that we're going to want to watch out for. Places to watch out, again, here's some of the cities. Jackson, Mississippi, that's one of the biggest ones. Monroe, Louisiana. We have Alexandria, so especially Louisiana and Mississippi, that's a big focus. But even outside of that, in the enhanced area, we still want to watch out. Baton Rouge, Shreveport, Mobile, Tuscaloosa, these are some of the biggest cities that will be impacted. And even further out in the slight area, we have New Orleans, Birmingham, we have Dallas in the area. So these are just some of the communities that could be affected, and again, everyone in between in this red area here. Alright, let's take you out to the future forecast model. Again, this is the HRRR model. It's doing a pretty good job right now picking up on these scattered showers and storms forming ahead of the main line. As we advance the model forward a little bit throughout the next few hours, the storms will be gradually moving north. So Arkansas, watch out. Your severe weather threat will be coming over the next few hours, especially for southeastern portions of Arkansas. This is where some large hail and maybe a few isolated tornadoes are possible. Around lunchtime into just after, things are generally quiet, especially in the main threat area, but a few of these storms from Louisiana to Mississippi could be locally severe. We could have some tornadoes and hail possible with any of these. Notice out west though, this is a main line forming over Texas, and it's really starting to get its act together. Some gusty winds, some hail is possible with this. Continuing on into the early afternoon hours, this main line starts to encounter the greater instability in the atmosphere, the greater energy, and as it moves into Louisiana and continuing past Arkansas, it really is strengthening. Damaging winds is quickly becoming a concern here, and then out ahead of the main line, any of these discrete cells, this is where tornadoes are possible, and potentially long track tornadoes, which is something we'll have to watch closely. With this type of setup, even the day of, it's very hard to pinpoint exactly how it's going to go down because small changes could have big impacts, but what we do know is that the ingredients are there. So even if the radar won't look exactly like how this model shows, the evolution will be somewhat similar to this, and the ingredients are there for those tornadoes and gusty winds. Here we go, 5 p.m. Again, these discrete cells out ahead, Mississippi, even into Alabama. A few tornadoes are possible in this, but then here comes the main line, and notice that we have some of these bowing segments of this line, these kind of bulges forward of this line. This is where real gusty winds are possible. This model showing that from Louisiana into parts of Mississippi. 75, 80 mile per hour winds, definitely not out of the question. And embedded in here, we could have a few QLCS tornadoes in the line, and perhaps even some stronger embedded supercells here as this moves through. The peak threat, I would say, would be from around here. later, so from 7 to 8 p.m. as we go through the evening, as this line continues east, all of this action out ahead of the line has the potential to be supercellular and produce those tornadoes. And then with the main line, even embedded in the main line, we could have a few significant tornadoes. And then again, just that damaging wind threat will be very widespread with these strong storms moving eastward. Anyone from Tennessee southward will be affected at some point later today into tonight. As we continue later into the evening hours, this will move east past Mississippi, and then Alabama, Tennessee, you'll be on the table overnight. Notice these storms will be weakening as they move east, but the threat is still pretty strong. So even here, look, we could have a few tornadoes out along ahead of this line, and then the gusty wind threat with the storms. These nocturnal tornadoes could be especially dangerous as we get to the overnight hours. So anyone from Mississippi eastward, we're talking about more of a nocturnal threat, and you'll definitely want to make sure you have a way to stay weather aware and get warnings overnight in case those tornado warnings go off. Switching over a bit to the longer range model here, again, here are these storms, and they'll be continuing to move eastward as we get into Sunday morning. It's going to be a wet and stormy Sunday morning from eastern Tennessee into much of Georgia. The severe weather threat will be diminishing by this point, especially the tornado threat. So I think after midnight, after about 1 or 2 a.m., the tornado threat goes down, but we are still tracking a strong gusty wind event with some of these storms, and we'll have a pretty quick eastward motion throughout the day tomorrow. So we're talking about the Carolinas and Virginias being impacted as we get into the afternoon hours. Still some gusty winds, again, isolated tornado can't be ruled out, but then the storm largely falls apart as it moves near and offshore the coast. And we'll pan the radar out to the northeast. You'll notice we also have some scattered action moving in there. A bit of a wet Sunday, but the severe weather threat is greatly diminished. Here's the day 2 severe weather outlook. Notice this large area in this slight risk. This is largely wind driven, so damaging winds are possible. And then the tornado threat still present, but much lower tomorrow than it is today. So that's a great news there. But again, we're hyper focused on today's severe weather threat in this red area, this moderate area. Dangerous storms are very likely later into the evening, into overnight. So anyone here, stay very weather aware. We can't emphasize it enough because unfortunately this could be a deadly situation for some, especially in the path of some of these stronger tornadoes. Keep tracking the radar later today. I'll send it over now to edited Isaiah for a look at the longer range forecast. Look at these temperature anomalies. This is how far above or below average temperatures are, and this solid swath of red across a broad majority of the country means that many of us, the vast majority of us, will be seeing temperatures 15 to 20 degrees above average. So this translates to highs in the 60s, even 70s down south. We'll have 40s and 50s up to the north. So this is very mild, especially for the end of December into early January as we get deep into the coldest months of winter. At night, the freezing line retreats all the way up north. So many of us will be above freezing for the morning lows in the Midwest to the Northeast. So enjoy a break for winter. We'll have some more fall-like air for the next few days. Okay, so I mentioned that our current weather pattern supporting the warm weather as well as those severe storms moving through the country is persisting through this weekend. But here's our big change in the weather pattern coming next week. Anytime we see these big warm spells, these large areas of temperatures above average, in wintertime the weather just has to respond with the opposite. And you know it is winter, so a big cool down. The cold air is coming, and right now it's looking like that's possible later into next week. A much more significant dip in the jet stream looks to take place sometime mid to late week, and this will focus especially from central to eastern parts of the country. This far out, there's tons of uncertainty on the exact specifics, so we'll just focus on the trends instead of the specific details. And the trends are certainly showing this bigger cool down with a more polar and permanent plunge of the jet stream. So this is a more Canadian air moving in. Switching over to the temperature anomalies, again, how far temperatures are near average. Notice that all the orange and red colors, the mild air, quickly fades away with more blue showing up. So this is near to even below average temperatures for the start of 2025. No more 50s and 60s for the highs. We'll be back down to the 30s and 40s in the north, and then down south we'll see more 50s again. And especially at night, freezing temperatures will be returning, so prepare for that. We could also see some more precipitation with this again. It looks like there'll be a storm that'll ride through the jet stream into some middle parts of the country. Notice for places like Illinois, Indiana, and then up through parts of the northeast mid to late week. So this could bring some rain, maybe even some snow on the backside with the colder air moving in. Severe weather concerns will look way less with this. Now that the colder air is coming in, we have really not that much juice for the storms to work with. And we'll definitely more be talking about snow than severe weather in the coming weeks. Even longer range forecasts past next week show that a colder weather pattern could be reinforced more and last for a decent bit. So as we head deeper into January, we could be looking at a colder turn to the weather, especially again for central and eastern parts of the country. Stay tuned to the weather for more specifics in the coming days, but look at this. 8 to 14 day temperature outlooks show that many of us will have probabilities of near normal to slightly below normal temperatures, so these cooler temperatures might be around to stick. So that's all we've got for the forecast for this week in the world of weather. Again, stay super weather aware, especially if you're anywhere in the severe weather zone. Even if you're not in the 4 out of 5 moderate risk, there's still still a high risk of severe weather in the 3 out of 5 enhanced, and even the 2 out of 5 slight. So anyone here needs to stay super weather aware, especially tonight, as the threat of nocturnal tornadoes and the straight line of storms and supercells move through. Hope everyone stays safe out there. Hopefully we don't get any of these long track tornadoes, but it is definitely a possibility and we want to be aware. That's all for today. We'll see you next time. Thanks y'all for watching.